Do you have traditional costumes in your country?
Well, there isn't actually a single traditional national Polish costume, but the different regions have got their traditional costumes, so you can quite easily tell someone who's from the mountains from someone who's from central Poland. But the thing is that people won't be wearing those costumes on an everyday basis. They will be rather used in celebrations or festivities.
We have lots of traditional costumes, and especially in the south of Spain, they dance flamenco, and they always wear these very dramatic dresses. They're very long and colourful, and it really adds to the drama of the dancing.
We do. The Welsh are very good at having a load of unusual costumes, including a big black bonnet hat for the ladies.
It would have its roots primarily in West Africa, and for the women it would be head wraps. A lot of head wraps, lots of bright colours, lots of reds and yellows. There would be an emphasis on red, gold and green, which has the link to Rastafarianism. And the red stands for the blood, yellow for the gold and the green for the grass.
What cultural traditions are there in your country?
Well, the cultural traditions really vary quite a lot from region to region. But the one interesting thing about the tradition in Poland, which is quite different from what happens here in England, is that at Christmas time, for us, Christmas Eve is the most important day of Christmas. This is where the family get together. And this is also the day when we open our presents.
We have lots of local festivals, especially during the summer. You can travel all around Spain, going to lots of different local fiestas everywhere.
We have a cultural display in Wales called the Eisteddfod, which is a lot of singing, poetry and cultural displays.
From my parents' side, who are based from the Caribbean, there's a great tradition of colour and flamboyancy, linked to the carnivals and reggae music and calypso music.
Are the cultural traditions changing?
I think they are, I think there is a lot of change. Because the traditional culture is very much rural culture, and with people moving into cities a lot, there isn't so much continuity anymore.
I think they're probably changing a little bit because everyone used to be very involved in them, and now young people don't really want to get that involved. So they're getting smaller and smaller. Like the traditional fiestas are not as popular anymore, but they're still happening.
I don't think the cultural displays in Wales are changing because they've existed for so long, but they're just being reinforced slightly as time goes on.
Yes, I think it's inevitable because of, if you like, black people born here in this country, and they're losing touch with their roots, really.
Do you get nervous in job interviews?
Not really. It depends on how well I've prepared for the job interview. If I've read up about the company and done lots of research and understood what the job specification is, then I try not to get nervous. But sometimes being nervous is a good thing because it gives you a bit of adrenaline to make you think about what you're saying and give good answers.
I'm lucky that I don't have to do job interviews being self-employed.
Sometimes. Slightly.
A little. It depends. I think probably if it's a job that I don't know whether I necessarily want or not, I'll probably be quite relaxed. And then further on, probably would get more and more nervous, yes.
Have you ever had a bad job interview?
Not really, no. I've had job interviews where I've talked too much or been a bit nervous, but I've never had an interview that's gone really badly.
I have. I've had a very bad job interview for the Navy. It was a 3-day long interview and it was very, very tiring.
Yes, which was a job interview with a group of people. So a group interview, yeah.
Yes. I was overconfident. I thought I knew everything, and surprisingly enough, I didn't get the job.
I haven't, actually, but I was very, very nervous in the job interview, but I did end up getting the job.
How do you prepare for a job interview?
I usually find out as much as I can about the company and background information, and then I find out about the job itself, how it fits into the other departments within the company and what the structure is, and try and think about what kind of questions I might get asked.
I read around the company, find out more details, and then read on current affairs.
Find out a lot about the job, first of all, what they're probably going to be expecting from me, and then think of some good answers for the questions that might be thrown at me.
I would research exactly what the job entails. I would research the company. I would probably do a short rehearsal for the interview, perhaps in front of friends or family.
I'd probably get members of my family or some of my friends to ask me questions at home.
Alfred Hitchcock was one of the most famous and most successful film directors in the history of cinema. He directed more than 50 films over 60 years. He was born in East London on the 13th of August, 1899. Hitchcock left school early and went to work in films. While he was working, Hitchcock met Alma Reville, and they married in 1926. Alma would work as a film editor or script editor on all of his films, and they would be married for over 60 years. None of these British film studios exist anymore. Even then, the British film industry was small. Hitchcock began as a designer, but within 5 years, he had risen to director. And he began to make the thrillers that would eventually make him famous. Soon, producers in Hollywood noticed him. In 1937, Hitchcock, Alma, and their daughter, Pat, went to Hollywood. Hitchcock worked for David O. Selznick. Selznick was one of Hollywood's most successful and most flamboyant producers, and a man obsessed with control of his films. Hitchcock was the same, and though the two men never trusted each other, they made great films. The films won Oscars and turned actors like Cary Grant and Ingrid Bergman into stars. In the late 1940s and 1950s, Hitchcock produced and directed his films. Each film was a huge success. Most were suspense thrillers, usually with a handsome star and a beautiful blonde leading lady. And Hitchcock was good at marketing and marketing himself too. He had always made very small appearances in his films. Now he started to make and appear in his own television series.
The focus of attention is on the birds and Alfred Hitchcock.
By the 1960s, Hitchcock was more famous than the stars of his films. Alfred Hitchcock died on the 29th of April, 1980, in Los Angeles. Today, many film directors try to copy his style, but they are never as clever as the master of suspense. He directed more than 50 films over 60 years. Hitchcock began as a designer, but within 5 years he had risen to director. Most were suspense thrillers, usually with a handsome star and a beautiful blonde leading lady. Alfred Hitchcock died on the 29th of April, 1980, in Los Angeles.